Former Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot's home was struck by a bullet in Logan Square. Don't be alarmed. No injuries were reported. This is a wild one. He's got a bullet in the garage. Somebody walks by and goes, Hey, is that a bullet lodged in Lori Lightfoot's garage? Yes, it is. Let's get into it. Here we go. What is crazy to me about this story, and the real story is Mayor Lightfoot's home, former Mayor Lightfoot's home, was hit by a bullet, and people are pretty much like, you know what? It's Chicago. I mean, as long as nobody got killed, as long as there was no real maiming, everything good. Let's just keep on going. And the reason for that is there is so much violence. There are so many stories of violence throughout Chicago, throughout certain neighborhoods, I should say, in Chicago, because other neighborhoods like Wheaton, had a discussion with one of my good friends, owns the bars. He went to Wheaton. His wife went to Wheaton. That's where they met. Their 4 children have gone to Wheaton. And it's a community that basically is super safe, has a Christian college in it, and it's fine. But then you go to these other neighborhoods and you're like, oh, good Lord. And we're going to read some of those stories. But there's just this situation where you've got all kinds of criminal activity going on, shootings in particular. And so if nobody gets killed, there's no real news stories. If nobody gets maimed, get winged, then it's no big deal. It's like, oh, hey, just another day. Guaranteed nobody was shooting at the mayor. Guaranteed it was some crazy random shooting. Somebody was shooting at somebody else on the street. I mean, we had a crazy, check this one out. Former Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot's home in Logan Square was the unintended target of a gunshot. I mean, somebody's probably shooting at somebody else on the sidewalk. Maybe that person actually got hit. Who knows? Because invariably these news stories, they indicate, well, there was a shooting, but there are no suspects. If you know of anything, please call 1-800-DIAL-A-COP. So it was the unintended target of a gunshot with a bullet discovered lodged in the side of her garage. And this makes news, ladies and gentlemen. This makes the news. When you've got so many other major news stories going on in Chicago, violence related, and this is it. Hey, that mayor didn't get shot. Your garage did. They picked a bullet out of the siding. It's all good. Nobody killed. Incident is currently under investigation as authorities look into who may be responsible for the gunfire. None of these stories ever end up with anybody being implicated. I mean, even the murders, half of the murders are just, well, one happened, somebody's dead, 3 kids are dead, and just, no follow-up because there's nobody in the community that wants to stand up and say, oh, yeah, I saw that car go by. It was a green Civic with license plate. It's stolen. You got some gangbangers in it, and they're just going to run around and terrorize people and shoot people. Probably like the bullet that happened to hit Lightfoot's house here. According to a statement obtained by ABC 7 Chicago, the bullet was found by someone who then alerted the police. I love these stories. Somebody just found it. They found the bullet. They're just walking by. Isn't that Lori Lightfoot's house? Hey, there's a bullet. There's a bullet in the house. You imagine if this happened in Washington State to one of our Seattle politicians? Oh, they would just freak the F out. I mean, they would literally have a meltdown. We need to have committee meetings. We need to have a special session. We need to take away everybody's guns because clearly this is a gun issue. This isn't a gun issue. This is a people issue who have guns who are using them to shoot each other. That's what it is, because guns just don't jump up and shoot people. Don't know if you knew that, but want to go ahead and just take away guns. Chicago has some of the most stringent gun laws in the country. How is that working out? Not all that well. Joanna Kionsky, spokesperson for Lori Lightfoot, confirmed that there was no one home at the time of the incident, ensuring that no injuries were reported. As the investigation unfolds, are they really going to have an investigation? Hey, there's a bullet in Lightfoot's home in her garage. Anybody know anything about that? Did you guys hear that when her home got shot? Were there some guys running around with guns? An investigation unfolds. Details are scarce, and the motive behind the shooting remains unclear. Do you think the police in Chicago are really going to do a bang-up job on, looking into this Lightfoot situation? I don't think so, right? I don't think so. Pending further insights from law enforcement, we're going to have an investigation. And the motive is unclear. Well, somebody was shooting at somebody else, and Lightfoot's house happened to be in the background. That's the bottom line. Boom, done, end of story. They're not shooting at her. If they were shooting at Lori Lightfoot, we would know, right? Instead, this was the news story. In her communication with CBS News Chicago, Kianski expressed the family's appreciation for the prompt response of the Chicago police. Former mayor's residential neighborhood of Logan Square, let's talk about, is typically a quieter area of Chicago, making the sound of the bullet's impact unexpected. And yet, nobody heard it. They just found it in, hey, what's that little indentation in the siding? Oh, it's got a bullet in it. Let's put a pair of needle nose pliers in there. We got one. We got one. Now, for those of you not familiar with your Chicago territory, Logan Square is a neighborhood to the west of Lincoln Park. It is north and west of downtown Chicago. From Lake Michigan, it is due west of Lincoln Park, which is an amazing band. They're without a lead singer because drugs, right? And then suicide. Yeah, not good. Not good. Chester Bennington. He was a great singer. So it's a quieter area, making the sound of the bullet's impact unexpected. Hey, what was that? Oh, it's just a bullet winging Lightfoot's home. Lightfoot, who now serves as a political analyst for CBS News Chicago, has yet to make a public statement regarding the incident. I don't think she probably will. Lori Lightfoot, one of the reasons I'm reading this is she will be bringing out her report on her findings of the village of Dalton. Remember, she kind of put out partial proceeds of her report. The village of Dalton spent $44,000 on one day on 3 different purchases of Amazon goods for the village of Dalton. And you're like, hey now, what's that for? Well, all kinds of spending that's questionable, not only in the village of Dalton, but in the township of Thornton, and Tiffany Hanyard at the helm of all that. And so Lori Lightfoot, the residents of Dalton, brought Lightfoot in to serve as basically an investigator. They figured people would talk to her. I don't know, but any which way, Lightfoot's going to have a report come out in January on the whole Tiff, Tahoe Tiff without the Tahoes, the dictator of Dalton, the super mayor. Man, that story has just gone absolutely sideways with this. And you're going to have to check out. We've got podcasts for days on this channel on that situation, but you've got a real stalemate between a couple of the supervisors and trustees in Thornton and the mayor, the super mayor. No one was present, getting back to Lori Lightfoot's home being winged by the bullet. No one was present when the bullet got into the garage wall, and no one was injured. Former mayor's connection with the public and the media have transitioned into a role of political analysis, potentially positions her within the crosshairs of criticism. But whether this incident holds any political motivation has not been suggested by authorities. Now, her house, the story is that Chicago just in general has so many people running around shooting each other that this is just a normal occurrence. In fact, let's take a little look at Hey Jackass and see what we got going on here, right? All right. We got shot and killed. This is December to date, and I'm recording for this 2 days before the end of December. Tomorrow is Happy New Year. In advance, Happy New Year. Shot and killed, December to date, Chicago. 37 shot and wounded, 122 in Chicago. Total shot, 159. Total homicides, 40. I mean, those numbers are just horrific, and we just kind of, just brush them off. Well, I mean, Chicago's a big city. It's got a lot of people running around. It's got a lot of people running around that have no issue shooting at each other with a gun. Just boop. Done. The year to date. Here's year to date. Since we are almost done with 2024, let's take a quick look here. We have got shot and killed, 537, shot and wounded, merely winged, 2,436, total shot, 2,973 people in Chicago were shot total. Almost 3,000 people were shot. And Chicago has some of the highest and most stringent gun laws in the country. Do you think these gangbangers are really worried about getting a legal gun? No. So that's not your real issue, right? Your real issue is stopping people from taking a gun out and just killing each other. Total homicides in Chicago, 608. Let's look at last week. Last week in Chicago, you got shot and killed 5, shot and wounded 37, total shot 42, total homicides 6. Every less than 3 minutes, we'll do this. Every 2 minutes and 56 seconds, somebody is shot. Every 14 minutes and 23 seconds, someone is murdered. Those are the basic your crime stats for Chicago. Here's another story, right? Illinois mom and daughter shot to death in front of children inside their own home. This is in Park Forest, Illinois. I mean, just, one story after another. The woman was suffering from apparent gunshot wounds. Peril identified as somebody 51 and her daughter, Sabrina McCain, 30. I mean, somebody just took it to them and now they're dead. Absolutely horrific. You've got 4,000 and here's where the rubber kind of hits the road. 4,098 Chicagoans killed due to gang crime in 20 years. How is that number not way, way higher? I don't believe these numbers at all. I don't believe them at all because I think they cooked the books on all these shootings. I think they cooked the books on the gang violence because if the true numbers were made available to the general public, people would go, ooh, good Lord, what in the F is going on? You kept telling us that the numbers are coming down. As we see here, Chicago sees decline in gang-related crime, but that's not the complete picture. Shocker, right? Shocker. Chicago streets have seen a marked decrease in reported gang-related crimes over the past 20 years. Really? Is that true? Really? Because I'm not, in all the stories that I cover, I am not seeing that. And I'm not seeing people say, hey, you know what? Chicago's a lot safer than it used to be. It's getting better. I'm seeing people go the other way. So, I'm just saying, I'm telling you what I know. Reaching a low point in 2023. So according to Chicago Police Department data, just over 1 in 5 homicides last year was suspected to be linked to gang activity. That number has got to be way off. That number has got to be between 60 and 70%. Right? However, this seemingly positive trend may not reflect the whole story, with experts questioning the true scale of gang influence and law enforcement's capacity to track it. That's what I think you got going on. Nobody wants to track this story because then if you've got the actual statistics in front of you, people are going to go, yeah, it's worse than I thought. It's not good. This isn't good. What are we going to do? Nothing. You're not going to do anything. You're just going to do a lot of finger pointing. Well, it's their fault. Let's go Brandon Johnson. He'll blame the previous guy. He'll blame somebody down the road. Well, I'm just going to blame it on the future guy coming into, or gal, let's not be sexist, coming into Chicago. It's their fault. Gang-related crimes accounted for only 0.7, less than 1% of all reported crimes in Chicago in 2023, a sharp decline from 2.9% in 2004. Records obtained through a Freedom of Information Act. Some argue that the numbers may be misleading, citing changes in gang structures and the shutdown of Chicago's controversial gang database in September of 2023 as potential factors. Okay, now we're getting somewhere. So you're telling me that the fact that we don't keep track of gangs might impact our gang numbers. Let me see if that makes sense. Yeah, that could have something to do with it, would it not? Joel Hammermick, a 30-year veteran in gun violence prevention and executive director of the nonprofit Strides for Peace, attributes the decline partly to a significant shift in gang dynamics. Now, I think we're not getting the full numbers. The books are cooked on this, right? About 20 years ago, but let's hear out this guy's theory. About 20 years ago, the gangs in Chicago had a strong governmental hierarchy and a lot more structure. But today, almost none of that structure remains. And that's why you've got so many shootings, because you used to have somebody at the top that would say, take them out, take them out. Now you've literally just got a bunch of lone cowboys running around shooting each other. There used to be some discipline. There used to be some fundamental structure within the gang system. Chicago has probably some of the greatest gang numbers of any major North American city. I think, I remember seeing like over 100 gangs and 150,000 affiliated members. You got to remember the total population of Chicago is 9 million? Take all those greater metropolitan areas together and put them together. So, I mean, it's a big, massive metropolitan area, but still you got way too many people just running around capping each other, right? So we got the decentralization of gangs has contributed to smaller, more fragmented groups operating across the city. Yeah, this transformation has made it more difficult for law enforcement to identify and track gang-related activity, especially following dismantling of the gang database. See, we always get to these little bits and pieces, and it's like, okay, yeah, the gang database. So you don't really know. We don't really know who's running around doing what, when, how, or where, because we don't keep the database anymore. I'm guessing that the database was racist. Yeah, I mean, it was inherently racist, was it not? Yeah. You can't practice data-driven policing without data, but we got rid of the data. We got rid of the data. Yeah, we no longer do that as of September 2023. So, I mean, this stuff is just, no wonder you've got people just running around shooting each other. Even if you do the shooting, there's high chance it won't even be considered part of a database to figure out how to stop this just absolutely rampant taking of lives in Chicago. I mean, let's admit it. When you got the numbers that I read to you of Hey Jackass, I mean, this is just some absolutely, it's crazy stuff, right? It's crazy stuff. So I recently got a really cool shirt. I should have brought it today. Got a really cool shirt from the Chicago Police Department. Somebody affiliated with the Chicago Police Department. And I will give them a shout out. If you want to have your name shouted out, I am always happy to do that. However, I'm going to hold back until somebody specifically says. But, Chicago's just got a ton of criminal activity and a ton of stories coming out of it. And what I find interesting is people are losing their lives on a daily basis in Chicago. And the big story to hit the news coming out of Chicago this weekend wasn't all the people that died. It was a bullet hit Lori Lightfoot's garage. Yep. That was the story. That is the story. It's kind of mind-boggling, but then again, well, when you get rid of, tracking and you don't really have a plan moving forward for how you're going to solve any of this, because if you start to look at the actual numbers, people are just going to, oh, good Lord, this isn't good. Let's ignore it. Let's move on. Let's talk about those illegals that, let's go Brandon Johnson spent a lot of money on, because then, we can do something about that. But this whole gang violence thing, no sirree. Don't talk about that. That's not good. Thank you for the t-shirt. You know who sent it to me. I don't know where I was going with that. That's it for me in this episode. And I will wear the shirt. Chicago Police. All right. Thanks again for being here. I'll catch up with you in the next episode. Bye for now.